Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and the anime has just done something that has blown my mind. Whether this is a good blow or a bad blow, that is what we're here to discuss, because anime fans, you will probably be shocked and hyped to learn from episode 984 that Zoro is a confirmed user of Conquerors Haki. Meanwhile, manga fans, you will probably be shocked to learn that anime fans are even aware of this development because it should have happened, I'd say roughly a year from now. Anime fans, you are not supposed to know that Zoro has Conquerors Haki at this point. In fact, the entire scene depicting it is entirely filler. This exchange never happened in the manga, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying it's a very interesting thing, and that I'm quite curious to explore why they decided to drop this revelation here, as opposed to letting the story just naturally play out. By the way, big shout out to Crunchyroll, who have uploaded a video on YouTube titled Zoro's Conquerors Haki, thus spoiling anyone who is not caught up with almost 1,000 episodes of anime. Crunchyroll is acting more like a crunchy troll. With that said, I'm probably going to be doing the exact same thing, so look, I'm a bit of a hypocrite. But the Wano anime has taken quite a lot of liberties and really ushered in a whole new era of One Piece in the animated medium. Some of these liberties are, in my opinion, phenomenal. There's a lot that I love about Wano that has reignited my passion for the One Piece anime, which has long since remained dormant for about a decade, I think. And there's also a fair bit that's questionable, but here's the cool part. There's also a lot in the anime that has yet to be revealed in the manga. That's right, for the first time in One Piece history, anime fans actually have something of a knowledge advantage over pure manga readers, because you guys get given a lot of information about stuff that we've been speculating on for literally years now. All of which is to say that manga readers really should stay and watch this video as well as stay and watch the anime, because you're gonna learn some important stuff. And the first unit of import happens to be the pressing of the subscribe button for the Grand Line Review, which will result in consistent injections of One Piece culture administered directly into your YouTube feed. It is absolutely essential in this day and age to attain that regular One Piece fix. And I, the guy who does the channel thing, am dedicated to providing it to you. Let's start with the Zoro business though. For manga readers, this scene plays out as a bit of a filler thing, with Zoro running into trouble with the Beast Pirates. Although who knows, maybe the B in BDSM just stands for beast in the One Piece world. Who are we to judge? In any case, Zoro, much like an intoxicated frat boy, force feeds someone alcohol, and the other frat dudes don't take kindly to this. After which point he uses Conquerors Haki to knock them out. And this is, well, it's massive, because I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, everything has changed now. In the manga, Zoro doesn't actually know that he has Conquerors Haki. He's more or less using it unconsciously. But the anime portrays it as if Zoro knows exactly what he's doing, with masterful control as well. It is such a precise jolt of Conquerors Haki to knock out just the few people causing trouble without prematurely starting a war. So this teeny tiny filler scene actually changes quite a lot going forward, because firstly, it's a pretty stunning revelation coming from absolutely nowhere, and secondly, it's going to be really difficult for Zoro to plead ignorance in regards to his abilities now. I obviously won't spoil the moment for anime only watchers because we love and appreciate all One Piece fans here, but it's pretty big. And so the discussion can turn to the idea of, well, does this sort of domino affect its way into undercutting that eventual event, or does the anime have bigger plans to continue taking things in slightly different directions? And we'll get to that, but first I have a much simpler question to ask, and that question is why? The Wano anime has done a lot of crazy stuff, and probably the most noticeable difference between the two mediums is the visual depiction of Haki. In the anime, it now manifests like a tangible source of energy, which does lead to some pretty spectacular action. It's very reminiscent of charging up in Dragon Ball or something Dragon Ball-esque, but for the most part, I don't mind it. It's purely aesthetic, and my view is that I'm just happy that the anime is trying something new, as well as something that can only be achieved in its own unique format. But with the Haki thing, like I said, it's purely aesthetic. The Haki insanity doesn't actually affect the story itself, whereas Zoro's Conquerors Haki revelation does. It does change the story quite significantly, actually. And there are a couple of reasons as to why the production team may have decided to go down this path. The first of which is the idea of foreshadowing. Anime watchers probably don't even realize this, but One Piece pulls some very, very sneaky stuff right in front of your eyes. The sort of stuff that makes manga readers lose their minds in a good way of course, and just makes you go like, ha, that was pretty brilliant, anime, good job. And as an example of this, I'd point to Sanji's lingering admiration of Robin. To those who who don't know any better, this is just a bit of a cute moment, but for those caught up with the manga, it is a pretty blatant reference to a certain event. And I think stuff like this is, well, once again, it's brilliant, because these hidden messages give manga readers another reason to watch the anime. And these messages exist in almost every episode in these days, and in retrospect, as an anime watcher, they just look like foreshadowing. However, I'm not sure if we can call this Zoro moment foreshadowing, mostly because foreshadowing would imply some vagity, whereas this is, well, it's more of a straight up spoiler. Foreshadowing would be in like Act 1 of Wano, where the anime heavily implied that Zoro may be a user of Conquerors Haki through his encounter with Oroshima. That little thing there was not in the manga. And in retrospect, it's also pretty wild, by the way, because that scene was animated way before Zoro's revelation happened in the manga. But like I said, this recent scene isn't exactly foreshadowing because it's just a blatant dump of information. And this next idea is a bit left field, but something that also came to mind is, did the anime producers do this as a sort of counter spoiler? And what do I mean by that? Well, for the anime watchers currently viewing this video, I'm sure that you have countless problems in terms of manga spoilers to deal with. Without isolating yourself from the internet, it is almost impossible to avoid them entirely. So with that in mind, if you're producing the anime, do you recognize that aspect of metaculture and just go, look, the anime watchers are by and large probably going to be spoiled about Zoro anyway, so why not just do it now and let them experience it naturally? And as a bonus, we also get a nice piece of filler that doesn't actually look like filler because it gives a legitimate development. And obviously I might just be thinking about that a bit too much, but at the same time, spoiler culture in Japan is very different to that of the West. They really don't care about spoilers in the same way that many of us do, which is why the One Piece anime openings tend to contain some pretty redonk spoilers for those paying even mild attention. And mild attention is kind of how I would describe myself in school. That's why everyone I know now works as doctors, lawyers, businessmen, whilst I talk about fictional pirates on the internet. So this really could just be an evolution of that culture, which boggles my mind to think about because it's a spoiler without actually being a spoiler. It's downright sinister, it is. That's not all though, because episode 984 specifically contains a scene of great interest to manga readers because it reveals one of the long-running raid mysteries, by which I am speaking of the shadowy figure who was standing behind Robin and Jinbei. Now this might seem a bit insane to anime watchers, but this has been a consistently hot topic in the manga fandom for, I guess, about a year now. However, the anime solves all of this by not only showing the shadow, but then cutting to a close-up of a very familiar figure is what I meant to say. And actually, I don't know why I'm being so cryptic about this. Anime fans, you already know who this person is. You've seen their face, like the actual face in the opening, which is a pretty fantastic example of what I mean by spoilers in the openings. But without diving too deeply into manga context, there was no solid reason to guarantee that this shadow was in fact this person. There are, or I suppose there were, many other good options. But this is an example of why the anime is now very much worth watching, because it legitimately gives you information that the manga omits. Sometimes it's pretty big stuff as well, and another great example is that the anime is the medium that actually confirmed the death of Kozuki Toki. In the manga, it was left quite vague, and you know the old saying with One Piece, if you don't see the body, then you really shouldn't assume that that character is dead. However, we did see a body in this case, as well as quite a shocking quantity of blood pooling around it. The Wano anime is even solving One Piece mysteries that have endured for well over a decade now. For example, as long as I can recall, there's been this question over the timeline of Shanks' scar, and this mostly comes from the release of Volume 0, which was a special chapter released alongside the Strong World film, which despite being film promotional material is actually canon. It is weird. But in this chapter, Oda seems to go to great lengths to cover Shanks' face, and this moment has become a pivotal mystery in understanding when and how he fought against Blackbeard. But once again, with startling casualness, the anime makes it very clear that Shanks did not have his scar at this time, thus helping us immensely with his timeline. Although it still doesn't help us with the fact that Shanks grew up and then grew back down. That's weird. It also makes some very intriguing stylistic choices, like portraying Roger's execution on a bright sunny day, as opposed to a dreary, wet, morbid, rainy affair. And I'm not going to say too much, but if any of you are highly invested in certain sun god based ideas, well, here's another hot piece of sun for you. And I say that partially seriously because it has been proven time after time that the anime production team actually know things about the future of the series that has yet to be published in the manga. The great instance of that would be how they knew that Kyoshiro was one of Odin's scabbards long before it was revealed in the manga. Although manga readers found out long before it was revealed in the manga, because this information was put into the over-the-top opening. It's interesting. It's very interesting. The anime is a bit of a crazy creature right now, and it feels like for the first time in, I think, ever, like its own story, its own project. It's not simply regurgitating the manga at us anymore. It's making not only stylistic, but dramatically impactful decisions that makes the Wano anime a legitimately different experience to the manga. Because in general, the anime just hits a lot more now than it used to. It's worth watching for the moments that it nails because they legitimately elevate the manga material. It does what anime is supposed to do, in addition to giving us fun and consequential pieces of information that the manga does not. And it also takes the opportunity to expand on interesting but arguably inconsequential stuff as well. So to illustrate, during the Odin flashback, we had, about half an episode focusing on Gaban, of all people. In the manga, I can't tell you a single thing about Gaban. We have no real idea what he's like as a person because he's only really appeared in a handful of panels. But the anime took the time to flesh him out a bit, and whether that's for better or worse, it is still undeniably intriguing. Because as a manga reader, I don't actually watch the anime for the story. I already know what's going to happen. Well, for the most part anyway, because the whole Zoro Conquerors Haki thing did prove that assumption wrong very recently. But by and large, I watch the anime to see this world come to life. And as such, I really appreciate moments of at least trying to expand on characters like Gaban. And then you've also got really fun extended fights. If nothing else, watch the anime to keep up with the fights. Roger versus Odin, Odin versus Whitebeard, Odin versus Kaido. Those three clashes especially were given huge expansions on material that is nothing short of a spectacle and a treat to watch. And at this stage, yes, I feel like I'm just rambling on and on and on about the anime, but the point is that it is worth your time to check it out. Yes, it does still move slowly, perhaps even very slowly, like you're on a slow-moving train, one you know can go much, much faster. But the scenery outside of the train is worth taking the time to look at and dwell on. Wano has been a largely enjoyable experience for me, and I very much look forward to seeing what the anime continues to throw our way. Meanwhile, I'ma throw this your way. It's a video and it's a fun one because it's about One Piece and you like the thing being One Piece, so you should click it, and I look forward to seeing you there.